Hey fellas, it's Float, and today we have a little bit of a breakdown on how to stay ahead in lane in Deadlock. So I've seen a lot of videos coming out recently that kind of point out a lot of good things about like how to win lane, how to do this, and how to do that. But I want to teach you how to win. And right here, this is kind of a method that I've always followed for Dota, for League, and a lot of different games, like MOBAs especially. Now, if you've never played a MOBA or any game like this, let me explain something to you that you have to understand. Deadlock is a MOBA before it is a first-person shooter, so you need to look at it and the laning phase similar to how League and Dota are. The best way that I've learned how to think of this is through a thing called tug of war. If you're ahead, you have more of the rope, and if you're behind, you have less. Think of it like a simple game of tug of war. Now, when it comes down to in-game, it's hard to kind of identify when you're winning and when you're losing, so let me help you identify these things. If you watch any of my gameplay where it's just for fun and you see me and you hear me say, they're denying me, or I'm denying them, or I'm stopping them from getting their farm, I'm keeping them behind, these are all things that contribute to the tug of war. So now how to apply that knowledge in game is to think of, I'm denying them the ability to farm souls, I'm denying them the ability to get stronger, I'm denying them the ability to play the game. That is the tug of war. In this game, I have a perfect example of me denying my enemy so much farm, so much CS, and so much ability to get stronger. By the time that it's late game for me, they're just entering the mid game for their abilities, so they're inherently not as strong as me or the rest of my team. Now, I have three big rules to think of this as. I call them the big three. I explain these to my friends who are getting into Deadlock, or whenever I would play games like League and I would explain things to my friends like that. But I kind of adapted this from League, but I call it the big three: space, souls, and strength. Now let me break these down for you. Space is where your minions are versus the enemy's minions or mobs. If the enemy mobs are pushed into my tower, they have more space than me. So if I have my minions pushed into their tower, I have more space. The way that I can deny them space is by farming their mobs and stopping them from being able to get my CS. So my mobs are constantly moving forwards. Now, I can't maintain this the entire game, but for the majority of the first phase, the first couple of items, I can definitely maintain it to where they don't take any space back, or they go right back to the middle of tug of war, and then I push them all the way back. The next thing is souls. Souls are the currency, and while I'm making sure to take space, the way I'm taking space is by killing the enemy mobs, which are giving me souls, which make me stronger by letting me buy or upgrade my abilities, and also by items which make me stronger. Remember, I also said this game is a MOBA. So when I mean MOBA, I mean whoever the first person to buy their first item is, that means that they're winning lane. That means that they have more CS than you do, which means they're going to be stronger once they get the first item. So whoever gets the first item is going to be the strongest. And space and souls wrap me into strength. Strength is buying items and staying ahead, so that every 500 CS or 500 souls that I'm getting, I'm going back to my shop, letting them take space so that I can go and I can get an item that makes me stronger, regardless if it's close range. But whatever it is, I'm making sure that it's either making me more healthy, I'm making sure that it's making me do more damage, or it's going to make it to where my gun shoots faster or whatever. But regardless of what it is, your first items are always going to make you stronger than somebody without any. Now that I have space, now that I have the souls, and now that I have the strength, I can now take trades, I can take fights with peace of mind. I can do a lot of different things that make me more comfortable with the ability to do these things. Because one thing that I've always preached, regardless of what game it is to always never take a 50-50. You want to take a 60-40 before you take a 50-50. Regardless of what it is, a 50-50 always sucks because there's 50% chance you win and 50% chance you lose. But in MOBAs, you want to always take a 60-40 split, something bigger than a 50-50. Now, everybody knows in a MOBA, once you're ahead, you have to stay ahead because they can easily just kind of come back up. But how do I start being ahead when it's in the beginning? Well, first things first, you want to make sure you're punishing your enemy for being too far up, for not respecting that space that you have created. So if you just got into lane and you just hopped off the zipline and your enemy is sitting on that mid tower while your mobs are pushed up right there, you want to push your enemy, you want to push your mobs up, so then your mobs are shooting him, and then on top of that you're shooting him, so he's taking unnecessary damage. If he doesn't back, that's a free win, right? If your enemy is too far back, you farm their souls. But if they're too far forward, you just go in and you do damage to them. If they don't walk away after you're doing damage to them, then that's almost like giving you the 60-40 split. If they're not a smart player, you have to punish them. So if they're too far forward and they're not farming souls, you need to punish them by taking their souls and pushing your mobs into their lane. And if they're too far forward, you farm them. If they're too far back, you farm their souls. Simple. And you'll hear people say like, oh, I'm winning lane. How do you know if you're winning lane? Is 9 times out of 10 by checking the tower damage. How much damage have I done to their tower? Is their tower still up? Versus how much damage did they do to my tower? Is my tower still up? But if you're doing all these things consistently, 9 times out of 10, what you can do is deny the ability for them to make a comeback. Also, if you become stronger and you have a couple of kills on them, or you're just 3k up while they're at 1.5, you're double the CS that they're at, you can go to another lane and you can potentially find a pick, you can find a gank, whatever you need to do. Remember, this is a MOBA first, not a first-person shooter. And so there's a lot of things that I talked about in this game, but I want to make sure that people kind of understand what I'm trying to say. So all in all, you want to make sure that you're taking the space that you need, taking the souls, and that you're staying stronger than your opponents. And that's how you're going to win in these MOBAs, in Deadlock. This can apply to League, Dota, or Deadlock, whatever the fuck it is. And if you're behind, let's say that you had a mishap, you made a mistake in the first part, and you need to correct that, you just farm souls. You farm and you try your best to find a place where they're taking too much space, and you punish them for that. I know that that was a lot of word scramble and a lot of different things that are going into these videos, but listen, these are the things that I've taken away from watching and playing League for so long and then coming over to Deadlock and playing Deadlock, and it's helped me succeed in a lot. I would consider myself being slightly above average or even really good at the game, because 9 times out of 10, even whenever I lose the game, I'm ending the game positive. I'm ending the game with more farm than my lane, and sometimes you just can't win games if you have a team that's throwing. But what you can do as being the better player or somebody who's following these rules and you're trying to get better is that you can apply these things to your lane, because if you're winning your lane, you can walk away from your lane, go to another lane, and you can start doing damage. You can start helping out. You can start pushing waves. You can start taking towers. You can start killing the mid boss, all while that person in your lane is trying to catch up. And all while you're doing that, maybe they do get semi-close to catching up. You return back to lane, and you keep on setting them back. That's all what this game is. It's a big tug of war. But the good thing about Deadlock is that it's not so much tug of war like League and Dota is. You want to think of the game as a fun game of kind of chess and checkers that you're playing in lane. And that's all we have for today. If you truly enjoyed this content, if you enjoyed this style of video, this informative Deadlock content, go ahead and leave a like and a subscribe and a comment and tell me if you like it more than these other videos that I have. I have a couple of guides on how to kind of play specific characters and things like that coming out relatively soon. So if you would like that, just go ahead and leave a like and a subscribe and a comment. Let me know who you want the video on most. That's all for today, homies. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Peace out. Later.